Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Tona Brown. I am here with Samson McCormick. Thank you so much, Samson McCormick, for joining us. You cannot do a show about Black LGBTQ icons and people who are entertainers without having this man on your show. And I really hope that more people come out here and support you. And so I just want to welcome you to the show. Thank you, Samson, for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm so high right now. No, I'm just playing. High on life. And I'm so happy to be here with you. Thank you for what you're doing, the conversations you're having, and for the representation that you've contributed to Black trans community.
Thank you so much, Sampson, because we have a lot of work to do in our community. And that was one of the reasons why I want to bring you on, is to uplift you and encourage you to keep doing the work that you're doing, and everyone else that is out here trying to do the work in a time where we're so sensitive about everything. As you know, from some of the things that you have gone through recently, like, how are you feeling and how is your mental health with all this going on?
Well, much to the disappointment of people who want otherwise, I'm doing better than ever.
That is good. You know what I mean?
Well,
Because it's just so much. You know, I want to say I've been doing a lot of work with Swerve magazine, and that was the first time that I actually got to read about the things that you have been doing and all the accolades from organizations. Just to mention a few, the top 100 most influential LGBT people by DBQ magazine, entertainer of the year for 2014 by Latino Oasis, Kings supporting Kings Brunch. I mean, the list goes on. LGBTQ artist of the year by Escape Puerto Rico,
yes.
Best male comic nomination, all of those things. But what really got me in some of your interviews was there was a feeling that you communicated that you didn't feel that you really got the credit for the impact of what you've created for Black gay men in comedy and theater. And that really touched me. And I said, you know what? We need to talk. We need to talk. And I need to let you know that you are an icon in our community, that you do matter. And that even if you didn't feel that, we definitely want to support you. Okay, we want to support you. And we also have to get out of this thing that we have today where if we don't agree on everything, we just want to cancel the person, or we're not allowing people even a chance to apologize because we're already just throwing daggers at them. So I want you to speak a little bit about why you felt that way. And you've been quoted in this article in Swerve magazine for saying that. That really touched me because I would have never thought that you would be going through this. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, thank you again. And second, so two different things. We'll start with just the work that I have contributed to, Black LGBTQ people in entertainment and film, comedy, on stage. Sometimes it can be very tireless. Because of certain circumstances, we do have to work a little bit harder. The work can't just be okay. The work has to always be outstanding. And so you're always working at the very highest level, and you don't always get a return on the work that you do. But one thing that has helped me with that since that last interview was recognizing how many more younger Black gay men in particular. That's my focus. It's on everybody, but as far as just mentorship, I understand the mental and emotional support that a lot of gay and bisexual Black men need. And so particularly navigating this industry. And my view on that has changed a little bit because the younger generation are now saying, I grew up watching you. First of all, that make me feel old as hell. And then secondly, it's like, okay, so the work has paid off in this way. And where, back in the day, there was only a handful of us and we were kind of scraping around fighting for scraps. Now there's much more opportunity. And I think because of a lot of the challenges and seeing life, the in the ways, personally speaking, that I have, it has allowed me to become a better person and a much more effective global citizen. I don't like to say artist, and I'm somebody who does my work and I do it out in the world and I go where I'm required to go. Now, as far as the more controversial things, I say things that I have been saying for years, and for some reason now it's a problem. And it's not even just a problem, but these are people in our community who are coming after people's livelihoods, coming after your reputation, smear campaigning you, all that type of stuff. And I'm like, how is it that we in our community are now becoming the same pastors and politicians and family members that just 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we simply wanted to be seen, heard, and respected by?
Absolutely. And just to share with people, I've gone through something similar when it was when I started working with men who are in relationships with transgender women. And I went around with them, and my event was protested, and then they found out it was all a lie, and it was just a
Wow.
big dramatic thing up in Chicago at the Create and Change conference. So I know personally what that feels like, to put the energy out here to help, to want to do the best that we can. None of us are perfect, right? And yes, it is our responsibility to educate ourselves, but we're all human. And I want to make sure that we have a space like Conversations with Tona Brown where we can really express ourselves and let people know that we don't have any hatred towards any particular group within the LGBTQ community or anything like that. But we are working artists. We're out here trying to make a living. And some of these things that people do are very harmful to our careers, and they do them on purpose. I mean, you also mentioned that, that affected your work and affected you getting more work. And of course, you fought through it, and that's the type of person that you are and that I am. And so now we're back on top. But it is very hurtful. Just talk a little bit about that, because I think people need to understand. I think the consequences that happen
Mhm.
when people just jump on board on anything they hear.
Right. Especially in this age of the internet where it's like everybody feels like they have a platform. The thing about that is, having a platform does, in my opinion, and I'm sure you can agree with this, it does require a level of emotional intelligence. It does require a level of responsibility and a way of seeing the world and extending yourself in a way that most people have not been required to do the work to have a platform with. And so people see things, and instead of being constructive about how they approach these conversations or our differences, they will try to bring you down a peg. For instance, if you want to be brutally honest, you look at,
Please.
because we do that. If you look at somebody like you, or somebody like Flame Monroe, or somebody like T.S. Madison, or you look at, black gay men, and particular, my focus is on black gay men and black trans women, because we have a different relationship with the world and the black community. When we can engage with the world and the community in ways where we show up as ourselves and get love for that, a lot of people in our community who haven't worked through that shit, they get upset at us. Oh, you think you special? And that's where a lot of that comes from. And it's not about thinking that we're special, but it's like, we know what we're here to do, and we're doing our work. And, we all, no matter who we are, where we come from, have the same capacity to tap into our gifts. And so they would be able to do the same thing too, if they weren't trying to be harmful to people who look and love and express themselves the way they do. But, see the world in a little bit different way, or have different, results talking to people.
Well, the saying hurt people is real.
Them Negroes ain't
And
hurt. Them Negroes need to put the drugs down.
I know that's right. I mean, but again, that's what I love about comedy is that that's what it's supposed to do. You're supposed to release all that tension. We're supposed to be able to have a little fun. And some things are cringy, but that's the whole point. That's the artistry behind what you do. And here's the thing about having a podcast, and here's the thing about doing this work. There are things that we have to talk about that are controversial or scandalous or whatever it is, just so that we can get it out there. Like,
Yeah.
this is a thing. Do you know what I mean? And so if in order for us to grow and develop, sometimes you end up talking about something that most people wouldn't talk about. Like, we're talking about Black LGBTQ people. We're talking about the issues that we have that we only whisper behind the scenes, all of those type of things. But now we're being politicized in a way that is so damaging and so dangerous. We don't need the infighting within our own community getting rampant. What we need is to show ourselves as a collective. And of course, that doesn't mean everyone is going to agree. But what we have to do is figure out that middle ground.
Well,
To all
unfortunately,
scenarios.
the only way there's ever going to be a collective movement again is if they take our rights away. Then a light bulb is going to come on and people are going to go, oh my God, we need each other. Because, back when we couldn't get married, people was bashing us on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Our families weren't accepting us, and it was one of us on television, and that one was dying of AIDS and living in a gutter.
Yep.
We recognized how important it was to support each other as gay people, support each
Yeah.
other as trans people. When them girls, and you remember this, because I'm from DC. I used to go hang out on Fifth and K. All the girls, they called them the girls and the dolls. Those were the trans women,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the cosmetic stuff that a lot of the procedures, the girls wasn't able to do it. So some of them girls would be out there with socks in their bras.
Right. Right.
You could see where they had shaved. They had the
Mm-hmm.
best
Yeah.
wig they had on, and people knew they was the girls and the dolls. But they
Mm-hmm.
had the respect of the street because if you messed with one of them, they would go in their purse and take a brick and bust you upside the head with it.
Exactly. And not only that, let's keep it real. There are so many contributions that the girls gave, and we helped so many of the boys all throughout history as well.
Yes,
People needed a place to live. The girls knew how to get out here and make their money, however that was, with survival sex work or whatever it was. And so I think that we've gotten to a point where we forgot that. We don't acknowledge the contributions of Black trans women enough
right.
to the movement. I think one of the times where I really bawled crying looking at some activism old footage from back in the day was when Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera were out there trying to get people to start voting and start thinking about politics, and the whole crowd just like erupted with boos and all this kind of carrying on. So there's always been this notion that transgender women especially are like the embarrassing ones of the
The
community.
pariahs of the community.
You know what I mean? And so I think with that being said, I think that's one of the reasons why we are so ultra sensitive about everything, even things that can be true. And so it really bothers me that we're not allowing ourselves to have these conversations and it's okay to check us.
Right.
It's okay, but there's a way to do that too. And it's just getting out of
But
control.
do
And
we really need to be checked? Because my thing is, we come from a time where we simply wanted people's respect. That's it. We didn't need them to change the way they saw the world. We didn't need them to call us anything. We just said we have a right to the same rights that everybody else has. And we got that. Then it became this thing where it was If you don't say, if like now we want allies, that's what we want is we want
Right.
allies. So we tell people, so in order to be an ally, if you don't say this, and this, then you're not an ally. And at that point, you're taking people's autonomy away from them. That is how you create enemies. Back in the day, like I just, did a run of shows in DC, and I was saying we might have had aunties who, if you said, "Hey, auntie, how do you feel about gay marriage?" She would say, "I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. But if you get married, I will come to your gay ass with because I love you." And that did
Right.
not mean she was homophobic. That meant that was her personal view on marriage. But she still didn't care what you did, but that was her personal view.
Right.
Now, if a
Right.
person has a personal view, before they can even explain themselves, or before we stop to view their overall humanity, or maybe life experiences that shape the way they look at the world, we are cramming all these things on them, projecting all these things on them that are destroying them.
I agree. We really are, and it's getting very toxic. I was talking to you off camera about the drama that happened with T.S. Madison recently that you did not know anything about, and I was just so in shock, and so many of my girlfriends, cis and trans, were all trying to figure out. Um, well, why is this such a big deal that she has certain preferences that don't align with someone else's preferences? Like we're getting so nitpicky about every little thing that you can't even breathe. And and especially as an artist, when you're trying to figure out how to make people laugh, when you are trying to entertain people, but still have a message. And that's one thing I will say, you always have had a message of unity and growth and what our LGBTQ community is all about, from looking at so many of your videos and that sort of thing. But we miss all that when we just take one thing and run with it. And
One
so
thing,
that one thing, I mean, and it's almost like any activism, anything you've ever done before should be thrown totally out, and everyone should just not support you anymore.
do they support you in the first place, though? Because a lot of them don't support the artists and stuff in the first place. For
Right, right.
instance, and a few of us had this same experience. I've been doing this now over 2 decades. I have a very, very solid catalog of work that the community kind of just picks over, but I've never fully felt supported in that. But I did this one clip on Fox Soul last year where they asked me about pronouns, and I said, this is the way people view pronouns, and we just need to be honest about it. When
Right.
I tell you that went viral 20 times, they shared it, they screenshotted it, saved it, shared it, posted it on other discussions, and I'm like, so the stuff that y'all want to hear that I've been saying for years, why don't y'all share that the same way?
Well, I mean, imagine myself as a classical musician. I never ever see the children come to my shows, like
Right.
ever. You know what I mean? And like people are really shocked when I tell them that, but I'm just like, no matter how many, even at Carnegie Hall, that was the first time I'd ever seen people that look like me in the audience, and we specifically were advertising towards our community but inviting everyone, and no one else from the exterior communities actually came out and supported the event, but we did.
Right.
The Black LGBTQ community came, but there weren't a whole bunch of, like, let's say people, white people, or whatever. We were targeting and uplifting the entire LGBTQ community. That was the whole point of it, with no budget. So it was a very ambitious and audacious event. But I think, again, people sometimes miss the point. But what we have to do as artists is that we have to keep going, and we have to learn from our mistakes if we've made them. And then we also have to just say that, which I'm proud of T.S. Madison for doing in this last scandal about her preferences, and, everyone's going back and forth. She just finally just said, look, I'm not going to allow you all to say that I, as a trans woman, is transphobic. Like, I'm not going
She
to do
shouldn't have
that.
explained nothing. She should have just told them kids shut the hell up and came back on there the next day and started talking about McDonald's or whatever else she'd be talking about. I would have just, it's not worth, don't feed the trolls.
Yeah. But back to you, because that's what this is really all about. We're here to encourage, uplift. You've gone through the drama with the children. Who hasn't these days, especially if you've been in front of us long enough?
And just to clarify, I will say, because some people may be unfamiliar. So there's a lot of new language in our community, a lot of stuff around gender identity and the pronouns. And my thing is, I am a Black same gender loving man. And there are some of us who have been blessed to not have to struggle with our identity. But when you've had, because I mean, I was raised personally to be very traditional. I was very raised to be like a traditional Black man, and I am traditional in most ways, except for I like fucking guys. So, so,
Okay.
so reconciling those identities or those parts of my identity has not been easy. So I would never discriminate against anybody else. But
Right.
the same way that I don't go around looking for anybody to validate my sexuality or the way that I express myself, none of us in our community should be forcing anybody to validate any part of our existence.
Good point.
That's
That's a
all I
great.
was saying. And you tell him that, and, yeah, you're just trying to this. And I mean, it's like you pulling a crack pipe out of their hand because everybody's thirsty for validation. So you really just pulling the crack pipe out their hand.
Yeah. And there's no way there is, it's literally no way to keep everyone happy. There is it's just not. And that's in any community. You know what I'm saying? There, I mean, like you, my family was very religious and all of those things. And you just learn when you're doing public figure work that there's going to be people that are going to like you and there's going to be people that are not. And we have to address certain issues. And just like you said, it's other things you must ignore. And again, how many of these same people come to your shows? How many are buying tickets? How many are really supporting us the way we need them to support us? It usually doesn't happen, especially the people that are the most vocal.
Well, what I find is that the haters, they're the ones who get the seats up front. And what they do is, so now they come because, they want to be able to leave and go, oh, he talked about this and he said this and he was problematic. And so
Wow.
there are those, and then the other ones secretly like you and want to sleep with you.
I know that's right.
But we
Right.
won't get into that. And these
You
people
know
are just
that's
nuts.
true.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Speaking of some drama at a show, I had not read about what happened to you in California.
Yes.
That wow. Do you want to speak on that? That was crazy where the
You
person
talking about
came
the
in a
shooting? No, I'm just
no.
playing. I'm playing. I'm playing. I'm playing. I'm playing. I'm
I'm
playing.
like, oh no, about the man who assaulted you and the woman that came right after that in what was it, Redding, California?
Redding, California. Oh, that might have been last year too. Last year was just
Yeah,
rough.
it was that what is it?
Wind River Casino.
Wind River. Yeah, what in the world?
Well, the thing now is, again, in this age of social media, people are lacking self control. And so rather than either A, not coming to a comedy show if they can't handle it, or B, having the sense of humor and emotional intelligence to not be triggered by something that a comedian says, now people will just run up on stage and jump on you.
Oh my God.
And that's some more stuff I'm not going to tolerate because you jump up on my stage, I'm going to knock you down. So there's
Okay.
that.
Okay. Don't get the game twisted.
And the dude, and I'm not violent, but I don't play that. Don't run up on me.
Right. Right. How are you feeling about your safety like since then?
Great, I got a gun.
Right. Like you like, look, all I had to do was one time. That was
Run
it.
up, you're going to get done up.
Oh my goodness. That was just crazy when I read about it. I'm so sorry that you went through that and that this is a new thing where people feel they can put their hands on
Yeah,
someone.
this was 3 days before Will Smith. No, Chris Rock got slapped, and 2 weeks before Chappelle got attacked on stage. It was like during that time, it was just people was jumping up on. It was something in the water. I don't know what was going on.
But since then, you haven't had anything like that.
Well, it was the old ladies in Chicago 2 weeks ago, but I closed line. I'm just playing. I'm just playing. It wasn't no old lady. No, since then, it hasn't been no problems.
Good, good, good. We want you to be safe and we want you to be able to do your work. And like you said, we also need to talk about mental health because, as you mentioned, it is not our responsibility to protect your triggers. You're supposed to know what to do when you're triggered and all those things. And I think that's another thing that we have to keep talking about and letting people know. It's like the responsibility that they're placing on everyone else and projecting their issues on other people is not fair.
Yeah, and so you get people who are emotionally stunted, developmentally stunted. These are 35 and 40-year-old, sometimes 50-year-old people who are really 10-year-olds stuck in 30, 40, and 50-year-old bodies. And they want
Hmm.
somebody to do all their emotional work for them. So there's that. Then they got their own personal issues, the way they feel about themselves, this and that, and their unhealthy ways of coping.
Mm. Oh, you
So,
done broke it down. What's next for Samson McCormick?
okay, so I just got done helping to produce a short film called All the Men I Met But Never Dated. It is written by Manib Hassan, who is a Muslim man, and it is about his experiences coming to terms with his sexuality and also being a Muslim and a Pakistani man. There are some parallels to that because as somebody who grew up in the black church, I come from the black church. The black church is in me. Um, Being someone who is not straight, there is a there's some challenges that you have to face coming to terms with who you are and really reconciling that. And that's not easy. That's something you have to do every single day. And
Mm.
so for somebody who is Muslim, and I think Muslim, Islam, that religion is a lot harsher than Christianity, to also acknowledge that you're gay and then also acknowledge how this conflict has affected your ability or your capacity to receive love. That's it. Just love from another human being.
Hmm.
That's deep.
It is. It is. And when is this to come out?
It's out now. It's touring different film festivals. So it was just in New York. It is headed to Oslo, Norway next month. No,
Nice.
this month. And then it'll be in Palm Springs. Um, it is shown at about 8 different festivals, and it's getting accepted into a lot of festivals. So you'll definitely be seeing a lot more of it. It's really beautifully shot, and the message is so important to the conversation that we still need to have about the reality of sexuality.
Absolutely. I was thinking about one of the movies that I saw. What was the one where your character's mom threw that holy water on you?
A different direction.
Yes, when I tell you, I literally screamed when I saw that because for those who have read my book, I had a grandmother who used to take holy water and put like a cross on me when I would come over to visit, and she
Yeah.
would just go into prayer and just be all extra. And when you got to that scene, that really touched me. I thought that was really phenomenal. So, tell us about that project. What was that like doing? And was that based on your own personal experiences?
Yes.
Mm.
So a different direction is we shot that about 6 years ago. That has Daryl Stevens from Noah's Ark is
Mm-hmm.
in it, and Miss Laura Hayes from Def Comedy Jam Martin, Queens of Comedy. She plays the mother. And Chris Wilson, who is a phenomenal actor, is in there as well. And
Mm-hmm.
it just was about the relationship that not just a lot of LGBT people. There's this certain emphasis on the relationships that some black gay men have and bisexual men had with their mothers. And I think there's a special focus on that because a lot of us have a sensitivity and an openness that allows us to take care of those kind of mothers a
Hmm.
lot differently than, say, some men in our community who instead beat their mothers up or go out and they terrorize other women or whatever.
Right, right.
Um, and then their dynamics with dads. I mean, different kind of family dynamics. And so it really was just about how important it is to have the courage sometimes to walk away from family.
It really touched home with me, and anyone who, like I said, has read my book or knows about it, that, that's something that I'm always talking about. Like, if it's a toxic situation or something that's not safe for you, you got to get out of it, no matter what the bloodline is or the relationship is. You got to figure out what you can take, and you learn to set boundaries, and you learn to get away from these people and stay with these people. But I was very, very blessed, because I had a mother who was super protective to make sure that I would be mentally well, have a good self-esteem. And she knew that there were some people in the family, which she told me later, that did not accept who I was at first.
Right.
And but
And
she
now,
was
quick
very
question:
protective.
when did you know? When did you know something was different about you?
Well, my mom says that she knew when I was 3,
Mm,
because, and she gave so many different examples of having to struggle with it. And one of, not her inner struggle, but people around her struggling with it. Like, one story she told was like, she kept throwing me up in the air as a little child and playing, and I was just laughing and giggling. And this older woman in the doctor's office went off on her and said, "What are you doing? You can't throw that girl in the air like that. You might harm her." And so my mom like retorted to her and said, "Well, this is my son." And like, lady, I know what I'm doing. So then she goes into the actual doctor's appointment.
hmm
I had the little curly hair, and all this stuff coming all across my face and carried on. I'm saying. Then the doctor was like, "Oh, how old is your daughter?" And this is this. And so she said that from a young age, there was always a question about my gender. And so it
mm,
made her do the research. But you got to remember, we're in the South, and she was a youth evangelist in the Pentecostal Kojic sort of church. And so said that she chose to support her child and to do more research. And so she started talking to LGBTQ people more. She started becoming a counselor to different people. But my mom was very unique. She'd go up to a homeless person and just sit there and talk to him for like 10 hours. Like, my mom was,
mm.
she was a dynamically forward thinking person. And I
And
think that's,
and having that, especially from so young in your life, I'm pretty sure that makes for a lot more healthy relationship with yourself, correct, and your self image.
absolutely. What we're finding, even in studies with all youth, not just trans youth, is that when you have a supportive family, and that's one of the reasons why we're going to be doing so many different conversations about families and sexuality and different things, so people can learn to be authentic, accept other people, all those things. Which is why I started this podcast, is because we're finding that if you came from a family structure where they accepted you, it didn't mean that they thought that, because my mom really didn't know the language. She didn't know what was going on. She
Right.
just knew that something was different about her child that she loved, and she was trying to figure it out along the way. But she also said that there's a mourning period that happens that a parent has to go through when you have a child that's LGBTQ. And I didn't
Mm.
really understand. And she said, because as a parent, you have that child's whole life kind of plan.
Yeah.
And I mean, think about yourself. You're a handsome man, you take good care of yourself, and people are thinking, especially your mom and your family, that you're going to keep the lineage going. You got to remember, my name, I was the fourth.
Yeah.
Thomas Brown the fourth. So, it was a lot of pressure that I was going to carry all of this stuff on. And then, of course, make the pretty babies and all of that stuff. And I never even wanted kids. So even if that was, that shocked my family
That
too.
is definitely one of the big conflicts. I think, especially now that I'm 40 now. I think because I'm my as far as my sexuality goes, I outside of religion, I don't have a problem with it. I've never, if it wasn't for religion, I wouldn't even blink twice about it. I'd just be like, all right. But I think that because I grew up, being told this is who you are, this is what a man is supposed to look like, and then there's also like this, and I get a lot of pushback from this in the community because I still do believe in a lot of traditional gender roles.
Mhm.
That's just a part of my makeup. There also is this thing where how can you be a man and be gay? There's
Oh,
that, and that stuff I'm still working through at 40 years old. But I mean,
really?
I'm still working through it. But I mean, I also know that I could not go out here and marry a woman because I would be happy married to a woman.
Right,
And
right, right.
so, I would not be able to give her, emotionally and all the other ways that she would need to be happy. So why would I go do that?
Right. But so many do, though,
I
don't they?
mean, we're guys, so I mean, a lot of us can sleep with anybody, but I mean,
Oh my God. Hold up. Wait. That's the most real thing one of the most real things that anybody has said on the show. Again, there's so many women that will look at you and lust for you and all these type of things. But you're the one, as I tell all my friends, I'm like, who's going to be the grown up here? Okay. Because we all can do anything. Everything feels good. Right.
yeah, you turn the lights out.
Right, you know what I'm saying? But you know who you are, and that's what we want. We want everyone to be able to just be who they are, and then you make a decision what you want to do and who you want to do it with, and with whatever genitals you want to do them with.
Yeah, it's funny because like when I go out, I get a lot of attention from women when I'm
Well,
out.
why wouldn't they? Hello, Samson, come on now. You know you fine. Like, come on now. So of course these women would be attracted to you and a lot of your friends. You guys keep yourselves up. You look good. You smell good. Hopefully,
Most of the time.
you
I
know.
think
So
I'm
I
all right
mean,
today. No, I'm just
eh, but you get what I'm saying.
yeah. Well, there is that, but and it's society wise, that will be a lot easier to do. It's a lot easier to, you walking down the street and, whatever, or you can say, my wife is home and the kids. That's easier to say and be in
That's
our
right.
society. But it's a lot more challenging to live in the authenticity of I much rather wake up and see a man.
Right, right. Also, I feel that there's a lot of women that I know personally, and they're going to be mad that I say this, but these women know who they are, who know that these men are gay and bisexual that they're dealing with. And as long as they have money or something like that, a lot of them will go right along with it. We all know the stories. We all have seen it. We even seen it with celebrities and on television. It's a thing, you
Yeah.
know.
In the church. It's in the church. It's a lot of them they get home, they sleep in separate rooms, but a lot of them will be together for lifestyle, and they do sleep together sometimes, but he's also out sleeping with guys.
Right, that's right. And like, why can't we be real about that? It just blows my mind. When I was at Shenandoah Conservatory, there was a gentleman there who used to love to just take me out. I knew he was one of the children, you know what I'm saying? But he would just take me out and he just said that he loved spoiling me for some reason. Well, there was a woman who wanted to be with him and he was a pianist and I was like, cool, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't attracted to him in that way. But we would go out, and I made it very clear with him. And one day, this woman said to him that she saw me walking through a major department store where she worked, and she wanted to slash my face.
Oh my lord.
because she wished that I was not as attractive, and that he wasn't so attracted to me. Well, years later, they end up having an arrangement. And because he wanted to go into music ministry, she said, well, in order for you to do that, you need to be with a cis woman, you know? And so they came to an arrangement and they got married. They're still married as far as I know. And that's their arrangement. She knows
That's
about
horrible.
him. You know, she knows, well, she's bisexual as well, but, you know, she knows about him. He knows about her. They have their own arrangements, sort of speak. And that's the way they live. But I was one of those people that I have to be real. That was always my thing. I just had to be real with me. If other people didn't like it or said I was nasty or whatever it was, I didn't care. As long as I felt good. When I looked in the mirror, I felt good with what I saw. So what would you like to leave for my audience as far as someone who wants to go into comedy as a Black, gay, bisexual, or whatever person? What would you like for them to know?
It takes a lot of work. It's a whole lot of work. Do it because you love what you're doing. When we say love what you're doing, people hear that and they assume that means, oh, it's going to be wonderful and I'm going to make this great stuff and have these great experiences. No, when we say love, that means you have to have such a drive to do it and a passion for it that no matter what you experience on the journey of doing it, that love and appreciation for your craft is what keeps you going. That's what loving what you do means. That's what truly loving somebody means. That's what truly loving yourself means. And your experience is no matter what, you believe in the best and you know that you'll overcome it. And so that's what show business always will be. You know, no matter how the internet and this and that change the way people navigate the entertainment industry on this journey, you have to love what you do so much that
Mm,
you're willing to overcome anything in order to do it.
yeah,
Um,
and you know that saying, would you be willing to do it for free?
okay, now I'm not doing that, but but I will say, you know, you have to be willing to persevere. I will say that, but I also encourage people to get your money. If there's a way you can make your monetize anything, absolutely do that. Because
Absolutely.
if you're not making money off what you're doing, somebody else will.
That part. That part. Thank you so much. Thank you, Samson McCormick, for joining me on Conversations with Tona Brown. I am so deeply honored to have you on, to allow you to express yourself, to allow you to explain anything that you wanted to explain. If there's anything else that you would like to leave my guests, you got the floor.
You know, just make sure you become friends with people you disagree with. If you have a friend who votes a little bit differently or who believes something a little bit differently, be open to understanding why. All it is a difference, and how boring of a world would we live in if all of us thought and believed the same thing.
Well, darn. There you go. Thank you. Thank you again, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us on Conversation with Tona Brown. I'm Tona Brown, your host, and I just got finished speaking to Samson McCormick, the iconic, legendary comedian and man of color who's living in his authentic truth. And he is out here making it and representing so many people. And so thank you so much, Samson, for being here. And I just want to say thank you to everyone else who is listening. Thank you for supporting this channel. If you like this sort of content, please like, rate, share, subscribe, depending on how you're getting this, because we are having these tough conversations. And that's what this conversation series is all about. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.